Hey, welcome along to session 3 on this short automation for music production and sound production course. We are going to take a look at effects automation in this session. After looking already at mixer and instrument automation, it's time for effects before moving on to MIDI CCs, and in the final session I'll do some creative uses of automation right across the board. Yeah, so effects automation, we have in all DAWs got a certain amount of native effects that come with the DAW that we can insert direct onto a channel, a track for example, and or use on an auxiliary channel as well, where we can send some signal from a track over to parallel wise over to an auxiliary via a bus input. That's another thing for another day, but yeah, we can kind of use effects and automate effects in this way. So we can also automate all third-party effects as well, so meaning effects made by other developers that can be loaded into your DAW. So I'm going to show you now some basic effects automation inside Logic, and I will again quickly dive into those other DAWs to show you how they and where those are located. I'm not going to go too deep into them, it's just a quick overview, mainly looking at Logic. There are a few other functions I'm going to show you inside Logic as well, which will make sense in particularly Pro Tools as well. So let's dive in and start to look at effects automation. Let's go. All right, so I've got this vocal stub in this track. Now I've got quite a lot going on this. It is actually just an audio recording. If I turn off the effects, if I just bypass them all here, that's what the original sounds like. But what I can actually do, if I adding all these effects, I've got movement on this. This is a third-party effect. I'll open some of these up to hear what's going on. So that's doing a bit of a gating effect via the delays and the filters and the pan controls. We then have Berserk, which is adding in some distortion. I'm using a direction mixer here to narrow the width of the sound, bringing it more into the mix, into the middle. I then got a channel EQ where I'm cutting off a lot of the low end. Again, this is a mix technique. I just wanted it to sit in the middle of the mix that way. And then I've got another distortion type, a bit crusher on after, and I've started to kind of downsample and drop the bit resolution down on that as well. Like so, that's what you're hearing there. If I bypass that a minute. And then finally, I'm using Cloud Max, which is a reverb, a modulation reverb, and it sounds like this. Adding in a lot of other texture there. Okay, so every single one of these effects, you can see controls. Particularly on the Cloud Max here, there's a lot. All of these controls, all of these controls, all these controls on Berserk, all of these controls on movement, for example, particularly this XY pad in the middle, I can once again automate. And I can automate via read mode. I can choose a parameter and manually input it, pretty much like we've done in the last sessions, and I can also stick it into latch or touch mode to use those as well. So let's just record some automation. I'm just going to close a couple of these effects because I'm not going to use the Cloud Max. I will probably just for this instance, just use movement. Oh, actually, I will use a little bit of Cloud Max. Why not? Let's get a bit kind of creative with this. And the Bit Crusher. Why not? We will turn the mix up and down over a period of time. So, if I was to do this manually, I would hit A for automation. I think you already know that by now. And then in this drop down list, I can now see every single effect listed, and here we can see every single parameter. So that's all the parameters on movement. Movement's quite a deep effect. Yeah, and that's the same for every single one of these other effects that we can use. So I could, for example, select one of those controls if I know what that is and use that. I am, in this particular instance, going to use, I'm going to use touch actually this time, because I want a certain parameter, particularly Bit Crusher, to jump back to what I started out at. And that's when you choose touch. Really great to use that. All right, so let's just hit play. We don't have to hit record. We don't have to do anything like that. We're just going to hit play, and we're going to change some of these parameters. I'm going to move these around a little bit. We'll start with the Vox Stab here. Let's go. I didn't get time before it came back around to do Cloud Max, but I think you get the idea. It's on a loop, so it's just jumped back around. Now, I was in touch mode there, so you probably, if you remember right, what happens with touch mode is the starting point. As soon as I let go of my control, either the mouse or a controller that it may be mapped to, I haven't in any of these sessions had a chance to talk to you about mapping and mapping automation parameters, any of these to an external control surface. Not had the time. It's something that you could start to explore another time, or look at some of my other real in-depth courses where that is covered. Yeah, so yeah, that's gone back to touch. So touch allows it to go back to the parameter that it started at. You saw these jump back. So let's actually close these effects now, and we can now see, and we'll shrink this down a little bit, the parameters that I just recorded and changed. And you can see there on the Bit Crusher that mix jumped back to the exact start point. Let's zoom in, that it started at over here. Okay, and the same here with movement jumped right back to that node start point here. The same here on this one, on the XY. So these are the XY features of movement. You can see that moving on its own. There we go. So we are automating. Now I could once again go back through and do even more automation over just that section. Keep it in touch mode, change another parameter, and keep on going over the top. Keep adding in more and more automation to change this vocal sound so much more. What I'd like to look at now are the trim functions here. I think the best way to explain this is to do with volume. If we look at now, because we've put it into touch mode, we've got this other little yellow line appear on the fader. It's like this little ghost line. Now I did discuss this trim and relative in the first session, the mixer session. So it's probably easier to understand if I just did this, went quickly back to volume. Let's put this into volume. We've got the current state of our volume fader right there now. But what touch allows us to do is record a drop of volume, automated volume, that is in here presenting itself right now. So what that allows us to do is actually be able to turn down the overall volume at any point in the track if we want to, without affecting the rest of the automation or having it bounce back to its current state like this it is at the moment. All right, so we're going to put a change in here. So let's just quickly do that. You can see that happening in behind. I can also go higher. You can see that if I put this back into read mode now, it's joined those two together. I'm going to undo that and we'll do relative, put it into touch mode, select relative and do that again. Stopped it, and now you can actually see, if I go back to read, we've now got two automation lanes, whereas touch changes, trim adds to what's already there volume wise, relative allowing for this continual line to carry on here, but some changes within at any point in the song, thus not changing this continual volume level. It will always go back to the main volume level set. So that's those other two functions. Let's now jump into Ableton and we'll have a look at some FX automation in there as well. Let's go. Okay, so back in Ableton here, we are in the session view, and of course we could focus on clip automation. I've got a synth loop soloed here. If I look at the effects I've got on, I've placed a filter and a reverb onto this synth loop track. Now I could, by double clicking and going to the envelopes here, I could add in clip automation, which would be automation. I could automate just that clip, and we can do that in Logic, and we can do that in other DAWs as well. In Logic it's known as region automation, in here clip automation. So yeah, I could just automate this X amount of bars clip with some sort of automation from the filter or from the reverb. However, I have got this in track here. Let's just set this live as a recording. So there's our synth loop there. And if I now go to here, you can now see the effects sitting here. I can open up that, see Simplon, and go from there. What we can also do here, if I hit this drop down menu, particularly with Simplon, is I can actually configure, if I wanted to particularly automate one of these parameters on Simplon, I'm able to select one, put it into configuration mode, and select it and apply that to the lane. You can also map this way as well by switching on the mapping. So I could map that parameter to a controller knob or slider, for example. I quite like not to be in configuration mode, because there's a quicker way to do it. That is when if we look at the synth loop right here under this drop down menu, we can now see the parameters right here in list form. So I could say, well, I want to just play about with, I don't know, the filter 1 frequency, and you can see if I turn that down, you can see the red line going up and down there as well. So I could start to click on that and put the nodes in, but of course, why don't we just record the automation? So it is a case of just going back to the beginning of the track and hitting record. Back to the beginning again, and maybe I want to do another pass over the top of that, this time with the reverb. I'll just put a loop over this section actually a moment, fully over this section, and yeah, we'll just go with maybe automating the reverb. Dry and wet control there, for example. All right, and now we again are seeing all of those parameters. There's the reverb, there's the filter frequency, and yeah, they're the only two that's, oh, and the filter peak is actually there as well. So that's how we could automate the parameters in Ableton for instruments. Okay, moving on to Pro Tools. All right, so here we are in Pro Tools. This again is very, very similar to what we did with the instrument automation. We've got to select what we want to automate first, and then we can, of course, automate. Got to get permission in Pro Tools, you see. All right, so I've got a reverb inserted here, the Tora Verb, which I will, just for the demo of this, I'm not going to do too many parameters, but again, all the parameters like the previous DAWs that we've used, all the effects parameters on any effect, I can insert more here. They are all automatable. Exactly the same. And of course, Pro Tools is very, very close to how Logic operates as well with the modes, the automation modes. All right, so what we've got to do first is right click on the actual insert and go to the automation dialog and then select the parameter or parameters that we want to automate. We've got to give Pro Tools permission to do that. Yeah, there's lots on the GUI of this Tora Verb. I am just going to do the effects, the wet and dry here. You can see it says it's underneath it, it's entitled effects, which will be this one. So I'm going to add that to my automation dialog, hit OK, and we should be good to go. We're going to now, I'm going to use the touch latch function, because when I let go, I want my automation parameter here to drop right back to dry after I let go of the mouse finishing up with what I'm doing. All right, so let's just do it. All we need to do here is play and move the parameter. And now if we go back to the automation drop down here and we select, there we are, you can see it there in yellow, Tora Verb FX, and there you go, look, you can see it is dropped right back down to 0. So that's that reverb opening up all on its own. There you are, look. And back down it goes. Just a little bit of a demo idea there of what you can do, but yeah, the process exactly the same, pretty much, in Pro Tools. All right, finally then, Cubase, let's do it. So I've got a drum beat here in Cubase. And I've got a couple of effects added to this. If we just go over to the audio inserts here, we can see a bit crusher and a filter. I've just thrown in a couple of native ones. So really simple. Again, in Cubase, you're going to go for either the two automation choices you have. Modes, either read or write. Well, it's quicker to do write because essentially that is latch mode, and then just automate and change any of the parameters. So if I click right on that now, you can also see on each of the plugins themselves, they've gone into that mode. They are ready to be manipulated. Let's do it. And we'll stop there. And let's have a look. Let's close these and let's have a look what we've actually done. We'll close also that. And here we go. Look, we can see lots of automation lanes associated with the drums. And there you can see our automation modes for the filter and for the bit crusher. Yeah, okay, so that's as easy as that. If you kind of want to hide all these lanes, you just right click and hide automation. Very simple to do. And as you already are aware, you can go and manually change those parameters, of which you can do in every single DAW. So it's always recommended to just use latch mode or write mode in Cubase and record. If you're able to map some controls, some parameters from those effects to a controller and then stick it into latch or write mode and record yourself tweaking away, puts that, you know, that kind of feeling back into your fingertips, shall we say. Makes it a little bit more real. Yeah, so outside of that, it's pretty easy to do. It's the same right across the board, but you can, once you've recorded something, you can edit it after, get the slopes correct, yeah, and move the automation around very easily. So that's effects automation. In the next session, I'm going to look at MIDI and CC automation, which can be a lot of fun, particularly if you're also using external hardware. You can send messages to it to tweak and manipulate those parameters. I'll see you in that session. Bye.